Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm Hailey Frances with Russ, Lyon, Sotheby's International Realty. I am a realtor and local market expert here in Arizona. And this is the Valley Homes Zoom series where I bring on other local experts who talk about all things homes to make the process of buying a home or selling a home a little bit easier for all of us to understand. Some big news that came out recently is the Federal Housing Finance Agency recently approved new loan limits for conventional loans and for FHA loans, and that affects a whole bunch of people, especially people who are looking to buy a home in 2022. And here to talk to me about that is Colton Dooley with Homeowners Financial Group. Hi, Colton.
Hey, thank you for having me back. It's an honor.
Thanks for joining me again. And I'm so stoked that we're talking about this because I feel like this is probably something people are Googling right now. Like, how does this affect me if I'm looking to buy a home in 2022? What do these new loan limits mean? So let's break this down and talk about conventional loan limits first. So with these new limits, what are they and how does it affect buyers?
So the new conventional loan limit is $647,000, $647,200. So as long as your loan amount is at that or under, you now fall into conventional loan. Whereas it used to be $548,250. After that, you were in jumbo territory. Now, what this means for buyers, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're really well qualified, this is going to help you be able to purchase a little bit more home than you would have originally. Now, where it's really beneficial is going to be those move-up buyers. Maybe you're on your second or third home. You have, a $300,000 or $400,000, $500,000 property. You have some good equity built up in it. You're planning on selling it. Maybe you've got, $100,000 in equity. You want to maybe put 10% down, save some money for some investments. That's where it's going to really benefit you because now you're getting really well qualified. Maybe your credit's really good. Now you've got a higher down payment. You're going to be able to buy more house for your dollar as well as save some money for those investments. That's where it's going to be really beneficial.
It sounds like it. And so just to make it super easy to understand for all of us, the difference between if you're up at that upper limit and you're like, I want to borrow maybe $500,000, $600,000, should I do a conventional loan versus a jumbo loan? What would be some of the differences between going conventional versus going jumbo? Does it save you money? Is there a fee that's no longer tacked on if you go conventional versus jumbo? Is it just a personal preference?
Not much of a difference other than when you get into jumbo territory, you're now dealing with specific investors. And what it really breaks down to, and it's a lot of monotonous stuff on our side, is when we look into your employment, maybe you're self-employed, it gets a little bit more hectic with those jumbo borrowers because you have to look at each investor's guidelines, where conventional runs off of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're very standard guidelines. They're the same for any loan passing through their system. Whereas we work with multiple different investors, and if your file gets complicated because of tax returns or you've own other properties, you need more assets and reserves that are, half liquid, half not. And each investor holds different guidelines. And one little guideline could be a hang up to where then maybe you look at flipping to a different investor. Now your pricing's worse. So it really comes down to the intricacies of your file and you as an individual. Got it.
Well, simplicity is key. We like as simple as possible. Okay, so that's how people who are buying, $500,000 or $600,000 or more homes will be able to get financing. Let's talk about first-time home buyers and that FHA loan and how that has changed heading into 2022.
Right. So the new FHA loan limit is $420,680. So now there's a lot more breathing room with that. Say you maybe didn't have the best credit score, but you had good assets for down payment and the pricing was just a lot worse to go conventional. So you were wanting to look at FHA because it was going to make that monthly payment less. What's going to happen is now you can fall under a better category, being able to purchase a new home. And for example, we had a client just this past week who's been pre-qualified with us for a little while, but was maxed out at her FHA loan limit due to her, personal life. She had some family things going on. She really needed more home. And this went into effect. We were actually able to give her a call and say, hey, we can move this loan amount up because she did have the assets for the down payment. She was well qualified, but the conventional was going to give her a worse interest rate, whereas FHA was offering her better options. And now we're able to extend her a little bit farther, help accommodate her and her family, and get them into something that's going to be able to work for them.
Well, it's great to hear that. And I work with first-time home buyers all the time. And I can tell you at the top of that range that was like nearing 360, the difference between the kind of home in Maricopa County and in Metro Phoenix that you can get for 360 compared to 420, you can really get a bit more home, and you can be a little more selective of the area that you want to live in. I just looked today before we had this conversation at the MLS to see what kind of homes are available. And if you were looking under 360 before for a single family home, there are just under 800 homes as of today that we're recording this that were available for sale. And when you bump it up, your price up to 420, you're talking about 1,600 available homes. So it really opens up your options. It's great news.
Exactly. And with that FHA loan limit was 368,000. That was the max you could get, meaning, if you wanted to buy a house for anything more than that, you had to cover the difference, which maybe you don't have the full amount of assets to cover that. Now we can bump you a lot higher and still keep you within that range. And like you said, the amount of houses that are available over that 368 limit now to 420 are just, increased substantially.
Yeah. I guess let's talk a little bit about the Federal Housing Finance Agency and how they actually roll these changes out. I know that this isn't the same, these new increased loan limits aren't the same around the country. So tell me a little bit about who we're talking specifically about Arizona and specifically about Metro Phoenix. Is that right? Are these limits the same in Tucson as they are in Phoenix?
They are, yes. So they're going to be the same. We do have a big sheet if anybody wants more information on it. Maybe you're in a different county or a different state. You can always reach out and let us know. I'm going to share this information with you as well. That breaks it down by state as well as by county to let you know what those limits are. But across different states and across different counties, there are different limits. But Arizona is pretty much standard at that conventional at the 647,200.
Okay, great. And I always tell my clients, if you ever have questions about lending, I'm not your girl, but I can point you in the right direction. And Colton has been a great resource. And so if you have any questions, Colton's available to you. I'm going to make sure his contact information is listed here in the description. Colton, thank you so much for talking to me about this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me back on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to have you here and glad we can provide some great information for people who are looking to potentially buy in 2022. It's a great time to buy in Arizona. Yeah. Okay, Colton. Well, thanks so much. We will see you next time. And if you have any questions about home buying or selling, my contact information is below and so is Colton's. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Bye.